A very good evening to one and all. Welcome to the Buddhist Mahavihara public page. And this evening we have a very distinguished speaker who's actually based in the United States, but currently Bhante is in Sri Lanka at the moment because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and he can't find his way back to USA. So we are actually very privileged to have had Bhante Sankichcha, who's going to speak to us uh, on the subject of boosting mental and physical immunity during a crisis. And Bhante is actually a well qualified person to speak on this because of his psychology degrees, which Bhante has acquired whilst in the States. Now, let me bring on Bhante Sankicha onto the screen. Welcome, Bhante. How are you?
Good, good. How are you? Good to see you.
Okay. Good to see you after a long time.
That's right.
Uh, we have about now I think 21 people on the screen. Um, we'll just wait for another few more minutes before we will start, and I will do a formal introduction of
Okay.
yourself, and then we will go into the Dhamma sermon immediately after that. Yeah.
Right.
Um, so for those of you who are not aware, this is Bhante Sankitcher from Michigan in United States, who's speaking to us. But currently he's speaking to us from Sri Lanka, not from the United States. And Bhante actually has been to Buddhist Mahavihara. I think in 2017, Bhante was with us for about 2 weeks, and he actually expounded a lot of interesting Dhamma sermons to our devotees, and many of us actually benefited from him. And Bhante, if you have also noticed, was also a student of Bhante Punaji from the States, and that's how we actually got to know Bhante Sankitcha as well. I, I think we have about 30 people. I think we can start now. Let me give a formal introduction to Bhante Sankitcha to those of you who are present this evening. Um, Bhante Sankitcha is actually from Michigan, USA, based in Michigan, USA. He was actually born in Canberra, Sri Lanka in 1976. In 1996, he moved to Australia where he lived for about 4 years, and then until he moved to the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara in Michigan, US in 2001. Bhante Sankitcha received his BA degree in psychology from the Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. He also has a master's degree in counseling psychology from Oakland University in Michigan, USA. He's currently the abbot of Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara and is engaged in many social and religious services both locally and internationally. So without much ado, I would now like to introduce Bhante and request Bhante to uh, start some Dhamma sermon this evening entitled Boosting Physical and Mental Immunity During a Crisis. Bhante, kindly start.
I hope you all can hear me. Uh, First of all, I'm very happy to talk to you in this evening to present this short Dhamma talk and share the Dhamma with you all. So I would like to wish our most venerable Nayaka Thera and other resident monks of Buddhist Mahavihar in Malaysia uh, happiness, peace, and good health at this special time, and also to all the Dhamma friends over there. So today we are going to spend some time on focusing on this special topic, how to boost our physical and mental immunity during crisis. So before we get into this topic, I would like to remind you that we all are approaching a very special and highly spiritual time for all the Buddhists all over the world, which is the Vesak season. We all celebrate Vesak every year to commemorate the Buddha's birth, great enlightenment, and passing away. So people do so many different things, different meritorious deeds, spiritual activities to celebrate Vesak. And I hope, especially the devotees and venerable monks of Buddhist Mahavihara also conduct very different varieties of religious and spiritual activities during this time. So, as the Dhamma practitioners, we have to pay our special attention to our spiritual development, enhancements of our spiritual qualities, and the Dhamma practice during this special time. So, uh, the Vesak month is starting today. So, this would be very appropriate and very suitable for us to spend some time on focusing on the Dhamma. So, according to the topic, we can directly go into what we are supposed to be talking today. How to face uh, effectively a crisis. How to face a crisis very effectively. So we all are facing a very challenging, very difficult time at this time. Not only us, but for the entire world, this is a very special time. This is an international crisis. Mostly, this crisis happens to us in different ways. It happens to us individually, to families, to our friends, or perhaps to a particular society or to a country. But today, presently, we are facing an international crisis. Every country is in the danger, is in danger of this coronavirus pandemic, as we all are aware. So people are really frightening. People are really afraid of their life, of their death. The life is so uncertain and vulnerable to so many conditions around us. So therefore, this is a very special time for all of us as Dhamma practitioners, how to look at this very sensitive issue, this sensitive crisis, and how to face it effectively, and what we should do, what we can understand about us, what can we understand about the world, what can we understand about our spirituality. So therefore, I think this is a very special moment to all of us. Uh, so first of all, if we think about what is a crisis, we all face very different, difficult times in our life from time to time. Sometimes we have physical issues. Sometimes we have issues with our relationships. Sometimes people lose their jobs. Sometimes we face different natural disasters like hurricane, earthquakes, floods, tsunami-like situations. So one of these situations is what we are facing today, the corona pandemic. So thousands of people are dying every day. So these are different types of situations, crises that that we all face from time to time. So these things are uh, having a very common nature when you look at these crises. When we talk about these international kind of big issues, big crises, we can see that these are some effects of the mother nature. As we can understand, uh, the people sometimes think that human beings, we are the controllers of this world. We can do whatever we want. We have the power to do things. Sometimes people think that we can conquer the world, the nature. If you look at how human beings behave, they have been behaving until this corona pandemic hit them. Uh, all these things have become an illusion at this special moment. It is very different when the nature begins to talk to us. When the nature reacts to our human behavior, our attitudes, is very powerful. It's very different. We can see the mother nature is having so much energy. It's so powerful. It can be just a simple reaction to whatever is going on in the world. So when we think about these crises, uh, as we learn the Dhamma, we can find very detailed supporting evidence in the suttas, like direct discourses of the Buddha, like Agganya Sutta, Chakravarti Sihanada suttas. These suttas directly explains how the human behavior, how human attitudes, especially their impurities, kilesas, are affecting the nature, how people decline in these spiritual aspects, and how that affect the normal functioning of the world nature. So Buddha clearly explains that how people are declining, and when people are declining in these spiritual values, the nature is also declining. This is how the nature reacts to it. We can see that today, before the fruits and vegetables are very sweet, very healthy even. Now we can see in every country the taste of the earth is losing. The taste is going away. And also the patterns of nature, weather, the patterns of weather is constantly changing. The temperature of the world is constantly changing. So we can see that parallelly, how human behavior is declining, and according to that, nature is also adjusting its normal functioning. So we can see that these crises are also sometimes uh, the result of the human behavior in that way. Or maybe it is just the nature of the world. It does not have to be a direct result of human behavior, but how it is how the nature works. It is how the world happens. So anyhow, as human beings, we have to face these different situations from time to time. So they are inevitable, and they are so powerful. We cannot simply run away from them. So we have to learn how to live with them, how to face them effectively. So what we can learn from the Dhamma in order to face these situations effectively. Uh, the first thing we have to accept, when we face these different crises, uh, the power of nature is uncontrollable. Like when you think about a powerful tsunami, earthquake, like uh, like the present crisis that we are facing today, uh, which we do not have any control. We cannot control them with our normal human abilities and skills. But we have to face them. But we are very vulnerable to them at the same time. So sometimes we become the direct victims of these situations. So we have to accept that. Hmm? We have to accept this nature. Uh, and sometimes we have to be very humble. Hmm? So directly we have to talk about the nature of these crises, and what can we do about it. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot do much about them. But at this moment, we have to think about uh, our attitudes towards these crises. And we have to understand how we can control ourselves when we are facing these kind of different situations. For an instance, today, most of the time, almost all of us are homebound. We are bound to our homes. We cannot go out like before, right? So we used to hang around with our friends. We used to travel a lot. We had a lot of fun. People used to enjoy their life in so many different ways, but we have completely stopped these activities today. We cannot do any of these things today. So it's a very challenging experience for many people, as they are used to move around all the time. They don't know how to stay at home. It's a very big question for many people, what to do with this extra time now. that they are spending at homes. So they are very confused. They don't know what to do. Uh, but when we look at these crises positively, when these kind of situations come to us, we have to somehow turn them into a positive uh, learning experience. Sometimes we can learn so many things from this experience. For an instance, many of my friends are talking to us about their personal experiences during this time. And sometimes they explain to me that how they spend this time, especially. So sometimes they explain that they are using their time to read books. Sometimes they spend much time learning the Dhamma, and they sometimes they take this opportunity to practice meditation. uh, and also sometimes they take this time to do things what they missed at home, fixing things, doing gardening, these kind of special things that they missed in their life. And on top of all these things, some of my friends explained to me that they are appreciating a very big family time. Sometimes, you may have this experience also. Sometimes you don't get to see your family members for days, for weeks, due to your external obligations, due to your work. So today, uh, they they are having this special time with their family members, their parents, their children, sometimes with their pets. So it's a great time. It's a great family time. So it's a very special time that that we can appreciate our spiritual connection with our family members, and we can learn how to appreciate our relationships. So before you may have not felt these strong connections with your immediate family members. So now you are spending more time with them. So you begin to feel the connection with them. You begin to feel their love, their care, and all these good things. So simply we have to become very sensitive to them, and then we can learn how to appreciate and enjoy them. So it's a very special thing. And also, sometimes for many people, as this is a very unusual experience for them, sometimes people get really frustrated, and it can lead even to depression kind of situations also, and they become very restless, uh, because different kind of emotions can arise from time to time because of this living in one place. uh, so therefore, we have to learn how to control them, how to observe them mindfully, without being victims of our own emotions. So these kind of things we can see when we are facing these different types of crises. So, as I mentioned earlier, to face these situations, sometimes, as we have no much control, sometimes we have to be humbly listen to the guidelines. This is very special. Sometimes people don't care. Sometimes people think that, oh, I have the power to control everything, and they don't listen to the guidelines of the government or the health officials, and they simply become the victims. They become vulnerable to these kind of pandemic situations. So therefore we have to be very humble, and we have to be very patient during any crisis, and we need to look for necessary guidelines, how to face them, how to deal with our personal experiences. So for that, we can learn so many things from the Dhamma. This is the most important thing that we are focusing today. Uh, the first thing that we can learn to have in our life, when we are facing any crisis in our life, to have very good friends around us is very special thing. We have to have good supporters around us. If we have very good supportive family members, if we have someone to talk to, uh, who can be trusted, and share our experience, so they are very helpful to any crisis situation. It's a big asset if we have good friends around us when we are facing any crisis. And also the knowledge that we are having, this is very special also. Sometimes uh, I have a very personal experience. One of my close friends in Michigan, USA, uh, got this virus, coronavirus, and this person successfully came over, and this person got recovered from the virus. So what this patient was explaining to me, that uh, this patient had a very good knowledge about the physical body. Actually, this person was a physical therapist. So this person, this friend explained to me that uh, if anyone has a better knowledge about this body and mind, in fact, this person was a very spiritual person, as one of our close devotees in our temple. She was explaining to me that the knowledge she had about the physical body and how it works, how to do things, really helped her becoming successfully recovered from this condition. So different types of knowledge can be very helpful. It can be the knowledge about the Dhamma. It can be knowledge about your physical body. It can be the knowledge about how your mind works. So these different kind of knowledge can be very helpful. mm, how things happen. For an instance, if you presently know how this coronavirus is functioning, how it's uh, spread uh, externally, how it travels from person to person, and how to avoid that. So this kind of necessary knowledge is very important to secure ourselves. So the knowledge can be very helpful in facing any crisis, and also any kind of personal experiences. you know Having faced any crisis before, uh, even having heard from our friends and other people how they face these different difficult crises and what they have done, what they learn from these experiences. This kind of personal experiences with others, these kind of prior situations can be very useful, very helpful. So these kind of uh, conditions are very useful externally. And also, when we are facing a real crisis in our life, uh, we have to personally pay our attention to our body and mind. Because if our physical body gets weak and very vulnerable to any condition, it's going to be very difficult to bear the pain and handle the situation. So therefore, we need to learn the necessary maintenance of our physical body and mind. This is what we call the immunity. We should have a very good immunity in our physical body, and most importantly, a better immunity in our mind. We can call it the mental immunity or the spiritual immunity. Both immunities are very essential facing any crisis in our life. Mm. So, no doubt that we learn so many things about how to boost our physical immunity, right? We all learn about these things, especially during this time. We hear so many different things: eating properly, eating healthy, and doing good exercises, going for walks, doing physical exercise, and breathing properly, learning how to breathe properly. Uh, and these kind of physical exercises and eating habits can be very healthy, and also taking a lot of vitamins like vitamin C's. So these conditions can boost our physical immunity to face uh, any kind of external uh, viruses or any kind of diseases. So that is very important. The physical immunity, there's no doubt. And we learn so many things. And people forget about the mental immunity, how important that is, right? So in the Dhamma, we learn the relationship. This is very important, very essential to learn. When we talk about the immunity, how the mental immunity, our mental attitudes affect our physical immunity. This is a very direct happening when we learn. So in the modern world today, especially in the medical field, they directly talk about psychoneuroendocrinology. This is very important. There are three things together: the psychological part, and the neurology, and the endocrine system in our body and mind, especially connected to our brain. How this direct topic is talking about how our mind directly, our emotions are connected to our brain functioning, our uh, neural functioning, which directly controls secretion of different hormones to carry out throughout our body. And it becomes eventually our personal experience in our system, in our body and mind. So in the medical field, they are directly talking about the connection with the mind and our emotions today, how they can be uh, affecting our physical body, our physical functioning. So this is a very a special topic that we can directly find the connections with the Dhamma. So Buddha also directly spoke about this. We have to maintain our mental immunity very importantly. So how can we boost our mental immunity? Just like the physical immunity, we have to exercise our mind. We have to train our mind. We have to cultivate our mind. And we have to feed our mind with positive food. So they can be the positive spiritual qualities like loving kindness, compassion, the wisdom, faith, the confidence in whatever we appreciate, whatever we follow, whatever we cultivate in our life. These kind of spiritual qualities can really boost our mental immunity. So we learn that very importantly, for the physical immunity, uh, the laughter can really boost our physical immunity. It can really illuminate our entire brain, so it can directly affect our mind also. So this is why we always guide our Dhamma friends to maintain a slight smile in their face, even by the time they practice meditation. It can create such a positive environment in our system, our psychophysical experience. It can be really helpful to cultivate even the meditation, because it creates such positive physical and mental environment. So when we learn the Dhamma, uh, all the spiritual qualities like Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, Dana, Sila, Bhavana, Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, and Panya, all these spiritual qualities can really boost our mental immunity to be able to effectively face any kind of crisis, any kind of difficult time, physical and mental problems, as our direct experiences in our practical life. So we have to stay healthy in our mind all the time, because mind gets diluted, mind gets affected by our thoughts, our emotions very rapidly, very quickly. So therefore, in the Dhamma, it is explained that our mind can get sick quicker than the physical body. So therefore, we have to pay our special mindful attention to observe our mind. If I am having a healthy mind right now, if my mind is healthy at this moment, or if my mind is weak at the moment, or at least to see what is happening in my mind right now. So these kind of attitudes we have to cultivate in our everyday life. So then we can really maintain a very healthy inner experience. So that is very essential by the time we face any crisis time in our life. So this is what, as I explained earlier, that even today many people are facing that without being able to handle their internal emotional agitations at this special time. They don't know how to handle them, because it's a very unique experience to them to be in one place, uh, to see these same people every day at home. So they don't know how to get rid of their frustrations, agitations, sometimes anger. Uh, so uh, that's why I mentioned earlier, this is a very good time to look at ourselves. It's a special time that we can directly pay our attention to see who we are, what is happening to us at this time. So, therefore, Buddha directly explained that uh, Apadasuko Maharaja Thamo Veritabbu. Facing a crisis is a good time to see our progress, our strength, our knowledge, even our skills, how powerful I am. So Buddha directly explained this. If you are to understand any person's power, how much control they have, look at them, how they are facing any crisis in their life. So this is a good reflection for us as individuals. We have to look at ourselves. How am I handling this situation? How am I facing this difficult time? Hmm? Can I bear this? Or am I getting more vulnerable to it? Hmm? So, therefore, this is a very good time to see ourselves. We can measure our skills, how much Dhamma knowledge I have, or how much I have put my Dhamma knowledge into practice. So, it's a very good time to practice the real, practical loving kindness and compassion to ourselves and others. So, this is the most important thing that we are finding today at this moment. We have to support each other, we have to help ourselves and others at the same time. So it's a real Dhamma practice. So we can see the value of the Dhamma directly playing in our everyday life. So when we talk about the mental immunity, the physical immunity, finally, I would like to explain this to you. Very important thing. What we carry in our mind can really directly affect our mind and body at the same time. You know, the brain today is known as the masterpiece of our psychophysical experience. Brain has the power to do all these things in our body and mind, affect our mind even directly, right? So uh, it is it is being researched today that even though our brain to be very complex and very smart in doing certain things in our life, in our physical body, miraculously, our brain does not know one thing. Hmm? Our brain does not know one thing. And this is a very powerful weakness in our brain. What is that weakness? Our brain does not know how to differentiate what is real and what is fake. Our brain doesn't know what is real and what is fake or what is wrong. How do we understand this point? Mhm. Simply think about what happens to you during the sleep. So we all have different dream experiences, right? When we see different things in our dream, what happens to us? Hmm? How our brain reacts to what we see. Hmm? This is a very important thing to observe, very important thing to learn. When we see something in the dream, uh, how our brain experiences that is, your brain takes it as a real. Hmm? So when I say that, you may recall so many different things in your dreams, right? Sometimes we get frightened, sometimes we get scared, and at the same time we enjoy so many things in our dreams. How we do that? How the brain does that is, brain thinks that they are so real. Your brain takes this as real. Mhm. But only when you wake up you get to know, wow, it was just a dream and nothing in real. So when you are conscious, you get to know that they are fake. But when until you get up, until you wake up, for your brain, all these things were so real. This is how your brain gets all the signals that it gets. Mm. But the important thing is that that process really brings us the unconscious suffering, tension, and anxieties into our system. Can you imagine how much suffering we are going through during our sleep? Sometimes we are having a very restless sleep. We don't get a peaceful sleep all the time because of that situation. Uh, so this is a very important thing. So the scientists researched, put these things into experiments, and they got one time they got an Olympic runner, and these scientists hooked this person to different machines, electrodes hooked up to their brain, and they observed the signals in the monitor. And they simply instructed this Olympic runner to close his eyes and imagine as he was as he was running in the real Olympic field, Olympic track. And what happens? What happened was the scientists directly observed the signals in the monitor that uh, the muscle fibers, the neurons of the brain, was exactly the same how this person was having as he was running in the real field. There no difference. Can you imagine that? So it was all the same. You know, this is what I really explained earlier. What your brain gets, it thinks that your brain thinks that it is real, but eventually it becomes our personal experience. So can you imagine that there are sometimes people who have attitudes that, oh, I cannot get over this difficulty, this problem, this sickness, and you get all the different medicines, but these problems never go away from them. What is directly happening there is that their mentality, their attitude, really not allowing them to be free from this sickness. So this is what we call the nocebo effect. Even though people tried placebo medicines for many different conditions to cure different patients, when people have these attitudes, we call it the hypochondriasis. Uh, so that is to have that attitude that I can never control, I can never get cured. This medicine can no longer help them. So at the same time, they did so many experiments, like for knee surgeries. Sometimes for some patients, they did fake knee surgeries, uh, showing them a fake video in the monitor that they are doing this knee surgery for this person. And because of the numbness, this person would not feel the pain, but this person was convinced that he's having this knee surgery exactly, just to imply that they made some marks in the knee. And eventually, after some time, the knee problem went away, they observed. So this is one of the placebo effects, to have that mindset, to believe that that person, that patient had the knee surgery to cure that problem, but they did not do the exact surgery. So we can see how interesting this mind works, how important the mind influencing our physical body. So this has a lot to do with our physical and mental immunity, the both. You know, what we are having in our mind as emotions, can you imagine that? To have these negative emotions for a long, long time, how they can affect our immune system, the physical immunity. So they can be very damaging and disturbing our entire system. So therefore, it's very important that we maintain a very positive mind during a crisis. So this is where we learn the importance about the mindfulness practice. You know, the mindfulness meditation nowadays are taught as a treatment for PTSD patients when people have faced this kind of crisis. For many people, these memories come into their present consciousness and they can be really disturbing, distracting, and distressing even. So they don't know how to handle. So uh, the different doctors and different treatments in the psychological field, they guide them in the mindfulness techniques. Mhm. Mindfully, consciously look at these situations, a real exact crisis, how they were facing it, and directly get exposed to them mentally and get used to these impulses, these experiences at the present moment, and watch them objectively, and at the same time to cultivate the compassion, loving kindness towards them, and necessarily for the individuals who are connected with these crises. So these kind of mental practices are taught in these PTSD cases. So we can see that how Dhamma is helping us in all these things when we learn how to stay positive, practicing the Dhamma, practicing mindfulness meditation. We can stay positive. We can directly maintain our mindful awareness to observe what is exactly happening to us when we are facing these crises. So I think, therefore, uh, facing a crisis can be a very important time to us uh, to understand how our understanding, our Dhamma practice, our knowledge, our skills, personal strengths are put into practice. Mm. So we have to take that direct responsibility. In a crisis time, not many people can help us because we all are vulnerable to it, right? So we have to be strong personally. We have to establish ourselves in these positive qualities. We have to believe ourselves. We can face it. We have the strength to do these things. And not only us, like even the Buddha and these kind of spiritual, highly spiritual people also went through these kind of situations, crises. But they were very mindful and they did not run away from them. And there's no running away, right? When we look at this kind of present crisis, there's no running away from them. We have to face them. And if we become intelligent, if we become mindful, knowledgeable, and if we have a very good physical and mental immunity, very importantly, we can face them effectively, and we can live a happy life. So I think uh, that's what I wanted to share with you as a helpful tips of how to boost our physical and mental immunity, having this proper knowledge in the Dhamma uh, to face this present crisis or any other crisis in our life. So I hope you enjoyed it. Um, I think if you had any questions, we can share them later, or you can talk to um, your Dhamma friends and learn from them. So is it a good time to wind up?
Yeah, Bante, before we wind up, there is one question that we received. Can you hear
Yes.
me, Bante?
Yeah, yeah, I
We
can
have
hear
one
you.
question that we received by one of our listeners.
Hmm.
We'll flash it on the screen. Can you see the question?
Yes. Yeah, hold on.
So, Bante, our mundane lives we are living now aren't
Yeah.
real in the Buddhist sense. Just
Hmm.
like the student who answers an exam question thinking that that is the correct answer, which in fact his answer is wrong. Are
Hmm.
we like this student? So we need to seek the true answer then.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question actually. Um, you know, what we learn in the Dhamma is very interesting, very important according to this question. According to the Dhamma, according to the Buddha's teachings, we can see that like we can talk about in different levels here. That's my problem here. But simply we can talk about it. We learn that what we see in our eye with our eyes, what we hear with our ears, in the superficial world, they are not real. Mhm. They are not real. How do we understand that? There are true realities in the world, right? We learn in the Dhamma the conventional truth and the ultimate truth, right? The conventional truth is what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we share in our superficial world. Basically, our sensory experiences. They are not real according to the Dhamma, right? But the ultimate reality is what happens behind the screen, right? That is what we find when we go into our deeper, subtler levels of this physical and mental experience. That's what we call the vipassana, right? Uh, in the bhavana techniques, in the meditation techniques, we go into these different levels to address that, to see that. In the spiritual world, when we begin to see how things happen, it's very different what we are seeing in the superficial world, right? uh, but it doesn't say that we have to ignore the conventional truth, conventional reality, right? Because we all are living in a superficial world. We have to share our opinions, we have to communicate, we have to go to work, right? We have to do all these things superficially just to survive, just for our survival. We have to do all these things, in the Buddha's case also, right? Buddha, even though he was a highly spiritual person, he lived like us. He was living in a world that we are living today, right? And Buddha used the same language, communication, and all these things, right? But they were not real. Hmm? So we also have to appreciate the conventional truth, but we should not take that as the ultimate truth. It is not the ultimate according to the Dhamma, right? And the important thing that when we learn the Dhamma, and very importantly, when we practice the Dhamma, when we follow the meditation techniques and other spiritual skills, we learn how to balance these uh, conventional truth than the ultimate truth. So we do not get into troubles, conflicts because of the conventional truth. The ultimate truth is just to overcome our suffering and other negativities and to attain to the higher knowledge, the Dhamma knowledge, in order to attain the enlightenment, right? So we have to differentiate that. We have to understand there are two realities in the world, and we should not get confused. In the fake reality or the conventional truth, we cannot find the permanent happiness, healthy happiness, because it has so many shortcomings, right? As all these things are subject to change. Nothing is happening to according to our wish, right? Everything is subject to change as a conditional reality. So if you get hold on to them, if you trust that this external reality or the conventional reality has the ultimate happiness, you are going to end up in suffering and frustrations. This is exactly what we learn in the Dhamma. That's where the ultimate truth is helping us to understand the ultimate reality, how things happen, the mechanism of these things. When you learn that, your mind is not shaking. You learn how to accept that. Uh, you learn how to let go when things are happening, going away from you. So this is the difference between understanding the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. Okay.
Thank you, Bante. I hope that answers
Do we have
Sister
any?
Sally's question. Are there any more questions before we wrap up tonight? Bante, from my own personal
Mhm,
knowledge, could you just quickly summarize for us the useful spiritual qualities that we need for facing a crisis
mhm.
in a very brief point form? Then,
Right, right. Yeah. As I explained earlier, you had to be very patient, right? We had to be very patient. We should not get agitated. That is very important. And also, we have to be able to humbly listen to others, listen to guidelines, necessary guidelines, because crisis time is not a usual experience for us, right? We have to be very humble sometimes. We have to listen to necessary guidelines, and also we have to learn how to love ourselves, love others. So to have this loving kindness and compassion for us, uh, just as an answer to just this agitated uh, attitudes of the mind, and also to deal with other people very friendly. So these qualities are very helpful, and also to uh, have better friends around us, supportive friends, and also to have a better knowledge how things happen, in a crisis like situation, and even to have good experience in our life, and also to have a better Dhamma knowledge in terms of controlling our emotions, controlling our mind, our attitudes. That kind of Dhamma knowledge can be very helpful. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we've kind of come to the end of this evening's Dhamma sharing. Bhante, would you like to now share the merits with the Devas and also the dearly
Yes.
departed?
All right. Okay, so it has been my pleasure to share this Dhamma with you all tonight. And as we finish this short Dhamma talk, we'd like to share all the merits that we acquired by listening to the Dhamma, by preaching the Dhamma. Uh, let's share all these merits with all the Devas, spiritual beings, celestial beings. And may all the Devas and spiritual beings protect us, guide us in the right direction to face this difficult time for all of us. And may they also attain the supreme happiness of Nibbana. Let's say the Gatha. Ittavata hi sambatam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. And also, let's share all these merits with all our departed family members, friends, and others. May they also receive our blessings, and may they become happy, peaceful, and comfortable in their sansaric journey. And finally, may they attain the supreme happiness of Nibbana, sharing the merits with our departed family members and friends. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukita huntu ñātayo. And finally, I wish you all the physical and mental well-being, the good health and long life, and may you be able to practice the Dhamma, and may you realize the Four Noble Truths, and may you attain the supreme happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu,
Uh,
sadhu.